Chapter 1. 22 days in. The sound of a single shopping cart echoed through the desolate aisles as an unknown entity pushed it along. How long has it been since I arrived in this strange place? I'm slowly starting to lose track of time. It's been 22 days and 8 hours so far. As for minutes and seconds, the time itself may be uncertain. I never feel hungry, don't need to drink to function, never sleep, always awake. The entity pondered as it strolled through the market. It stopped to stock the empty shelves. Gently gripping a glass bottle from the cart, a faint reflection danced on its surface. The entity gazed at its obsidian-like visage, its thoughts delving into the abyss of uncertainty. Then, with a deliberate grace, it returned the bottle to its place. The process repeated until the shelves were full. I do not know who or what I'm supposed to be. Where am I? Or who brought me here? How did I get here? Questions and more start to surface the longer I stay here. In situations such as this, one would lose his sanity. However, in my case, I'm perfectly sane. The entity continued to restock the aisle until only one bottle remained, which it picked up and carefully positioned in its rightful place. One thing to note, my body and mind are not mine to fully operate and be in control of. His thoughts paused after seeing that the shelf was complete. The entity guided its shopping cart to the next destination. The cart's wheels echoed softly on the floor, and later, entering another aisle. This one was lined with mirrors. The figure came to a halt, compelled to inspect its own reflection. The black shadow-like figure had the body of a male human, though ridiculously tall. Its height measured a staggering 14 feet tall due to its abnormally long limbs. Its physique leaned towards the skinny side of the scale, with ribs evident if it were to remove its attire. A void-like absence replaced its facial features, giving it an eerie presence. The entity wore a light blue polo shirt coupled with a pine green apron that had a singular blank name tag on its left chest. Completing the uniform were black pants and a pen securely fastened to a pocket. With a smartphone held by its long, claw-like hands, the entity stared at its reflection, a ritual it had performed countless times before. Raising the device, the entity checked its tasks. 2 were marked as completed, including the most recent of restocking an empty shelf. Its next task is organizing the products by brand on an aisle. I've been doing these mundane tasks for days, and after doing the same thing each day, ever since I was brought here, I came to a conclusion that I was brought here as a slave, to work and be the caretaker of this place. The humming sound of the shopping cart continued until the entity left it in the cart corral, no longer needed. He walked to his next destination as 2 more tasks were left. I tried to leave through the main doors once, but it wouldn't budge. I tried to find and see if there were other gateways leading to the outside. The more I roamed around the place in search for a gateway, I was only met with more and more aisles. The more I walked, the more it led me to even more sections with an abundance of unknown and bizarre items that I cannot recall from the faint memory that I have. Arriving at the disordered chip aisle, a mishmash of colors and brands awaited. The meticulous work of organization commenced, starting from the right and progressing methodically to the left. I've seen a few that have entered this place from the main door, for is what I can tell from memory. Their appearances differed. Some were strange, while some looked human. For me to see it as normal tells me that I, too, was once a human. The entity tried to recall the appearances of past visitors. The first newcomer was a peculiar one. A round human with a brown beard, wearing a white polo shirt and jeans. Strangely, he had an aluminum pan on his head and spoke incoherently. The strangest part was that the entity could understand him as if he spoke the language himself. The odd guest, without a single inquiry into the worker's identity, placed an order for a taco. The entity guided him to the appropriate aisle, wielding the same device. As far as he knew, this gadget was used to appraise or find a specific item's location as its current functions. Without any warning whatsoever, the man reached out to devour the taco. An obsidian hand shot out and intervened just in time, blocking the way to his mouth and preventing him from indulging prematurely. The entity gestured for him to pay, to which he readily agreed. They made their way to the cashier's counter, where the unruly visitor was asked to drop off any valuables that he might have on him as payment for his item. What he had was a few scraps, a map that led to somewhere, and a few silver coins. These offerings mysteriously vanished, replaced by an approving mark displayed on the cashier machine's screen. It seemed enough to cover the cost of a simple snack. The person then left through the door with a simple taco in his hand. Leaving the store clerk alone with his thoughts once more, The entity pondered upon the purpose of the map that was left behind. It was a mystery, one he was curious to know more about. The remaining 2 visitors, however, reacted differently, fleeing in alarm upon catching sight of the gangly clerk who could only watch their retreating figures. Their appearances were indeed peculiar. They arrived a few days after the initial customer, each at a distinct time. The first visitor took the form of a flower. It possessed yellow petals, a green stem, and a white androecium adorned with distinct facial features. An initial smile graced its countenance, which then turned to fright. The second, an even stranger sight, resembled a small pink dog. Its terror was palpable as it emitted a loud scream before bolting away in frantic haste. The fourth and latest of visits was quite something. He was a handsome young man with brown hair that fell just below his brows and eyes of a similar color. His attire consisted of a white winter coat over a shirt, complemented by formal beige khaki pants. He had an above-average height and was decent in terms of physique for a human. The encounter was quite the surprise for him, though he was not as shocked as a regular human should be. Perhaps he might have seen stranger things than a 14-foot-tall hypermarket attendant. The man had his pen drop, hitting the ground, followed by a piece of paper sticking out of his coat pocket as he fell on the ground. The entity's gaze shifted towards the paper that was peeking out of the pocket. It had something written on it, but he could only make out 3 letters. Now. He couldn't help but wonder about the significance of now, but he set his curiosity aside for the moment. Instead, the store clerk extended a helping hand to the fallen man, who surprisingly accepted the assistance. As he was pulled upright, silence enveloped them for a full 15 seconds, the only sound being the subtle ticking of the newcomer's watch, its delicate clockwork keeping time in this strange domain. Tick, tick, tick. Breaking the lingering quietude, a courteous welcome was extended to the man. A melodic voice echoed through the heavy atmosphere of silence that had fallen upon them. The entity's tone was calm and measured, aimed to avoid startling his guest. He placed a hand gently on his chest and offered a slight bow, a gesture of respect. The man observed the tall creature's actions with caution, which was evident in his scrutinizing gaze. "Welcome. How may I assist? This place, what exactly is it?" the guest inquired, his voice betraying no trepidation. "From my experience, it is an endless expanse, offering a countless variety of resources and products. Is there anything you wish to look for?" he replied, returning from his bowing gesture. The man stood quietly for a couple of seconds. "You, what exactly are you?" he questioned, his gaze boring into the clerk's featureless face. "I do not know. Perhaps in due time." Contemplating the response, he continued with another query. "An endless expanse? If the place never ends, are you implying that the items here surpasses or even meets the demands of one's imagination? And your uncertainty about your identity implies that you are a servant, or one amongst the servants, entrusted with managing this peculiar place." His eyes scanned their surreal surroundings, especially noticing the odd horizon point at the end. A gentle nod acknowledged his perception. "That is how I thought of it too the more I roamed the place," the worker affirmed. "This place harbors an array of bizarre items, ranging from basic to extraordinary. As for being a servant, it is true, but to whom I serve, I do not know. I merely adhere to the directives given to me." A few seconds of silence took over before the man asked, "Is it possible for me to return if I were to leave this place?" "I am uncertain. As of now, those who left have yet to return. You are the 4th visitor I have encountered." Turning away, the man retrieved his fallen pen, tucking it neatly into one of his coat pockets. He approached the entrance, seemingly ready to exit. However, before leaving, he glanced back, turning his head slightly to the side. "I look forward to meeting you at a later time," prompting a single nod from the entity. The sound of the final potato chip wrapper being carefully positioned filled the otherwise undisturbed air of silence. The entity then rose from his crouched posture, marking the completion of the 3rd task on the device. As he was prepared to read the last task, beep beep, an unexpected noise sounded from the entrance. A visitor. I wonder who it might be this time. Chapter 2. A new visitor. Tokunosu City, Japan. East District, 11 p.m. 30 yen is all I've got. I spent the rest of it on a juice box earlier. A teenage boy muttered, a hint of embarrassment tainting his words. "Seriously? Even in a situation like this? Cause of you, we're now stranded here," remarked a girl of the same age, her frustration evident in her voice. "TCH, alright, look. I'm sorry I'm not Hisashi, okay?" the boy retorted. His irritation stemmed from not living up to the standards of someone named Hisashi. "You're seriously the absolute worst for bringing him up," she exclaimed, her anger flaring at the mention of her deceased boyfriend. Her eyes narrowed in disdain as her bottom lip quivered. She was trying her hardest to keep the dam holding back her tears and sorrow from bursting. In a sudden motion, he reached his hand out, gesturing for her to lend him some change. Her brows furrowed slightly at the action. Seeing her confusion, he raised his voice. "Money. You have to lend me some if we need to get out of here. I left my wallet in my school bag," she stammered, embarrassment flooding to her face and coloring her cheeks a bright pink color as she tried to avoid his gaze. This girl, is she serious? What the actual hell? And she was the one being snobbish about it. He sighed at her response. "Just wait here and scream if anything happens," he instructed before making his way to the convenience store. However, he noticed something strange beyond the glass door. It was pitch black, and hardly anything could be seen from the outside except for a small portion of the white floor reflected by the outside light sources. "It's risky to go in. Who knows if I were to encounter those inside?" He glimpsed at his newly acquired weapon in his pocket and glanced back toward his childhood friend. "I don't want to be seen as someone who is weak and unreliable in front of her. I'm the only man here who can protect her." Conviction ran through his veins and forced his legs into movement. That boost of bravery was enough to make him venture in. The doors opened, and only a couple of seconds afterward, the darkness swallowed him whole. He turned back and found nothing but darkness. The entrance had disappeared. After a few seconds, a light shined behind him. He was met with something bright. It resembled a door, seemingly attached to nothing. "I must have blacked out. In no way this is real." He stood in place for a few moments. Seeing no changes to the surroundings, he cautiously walked towards it. As he neared the door, it glided open, momentarily startling him. There was a resounding beep sound that greeted him as he entered. Cool air, bright fluorescent lights from the ceiling, and seemingly endless rows of aisles that stretched out to the horizon welcomed him. He stared around in awe, gaping at all the products stacked on the shelves and the cashier counters, which stood empty. The whole store was devoid of any life. Everything was in order, with no mess or any wreckage at all. Just where did I step into? I'm sure the convenience store was not that big from the outside. He took in the surroundings and considered the possibility of this happening. Tap, tap, tap. Footsteps? Someone is here. His eyes widened in shock as he glanced around frantically. His hand moved to hover above his recently acquired cop pistol, ready to fire if it happened to be a threat. "Hello? Is anyone there?" His voice carried through the strange domain. Plus POVN plus. The entity made his way to his destination. As he neared the end of the aisles, he began to hear the newcomer's voice, and their image became more apparent. The frightened human could do nothing but quiver in fear. His eyes widened at the sight of the dark figure. A shrill scream pierced through the air. Ag. Bang, bang, bang. Shots were fired, aiming toward the tall store clerk. The firing stopped only when there were no bullets left. The sound of the empty barrel trying and failing to release another bullet was heard. Click, click. The teen fell back down on his rear, scrambling to back away. The entity traced his figure with his hand. No damage to his body. The bullets had all been repelled by a strange, transparent shield, or so it seemed. The entity raised both hands at head level, trying to ease the terrified teen. "You can rest at ease, for I bring no harm. You have my word," he said gently, bowing slightly and placing his hand on his chest, right above where a human's heart would be located, to show he meant no harm. The frightened teen's shoulders dropped slightly as the interval between his breaths lengthened. The entity could tell that he was still on edge by how the teen's eyes flitted between him and where the exit was. He stood up slowly, shaking a bit from the recent scare. "Welcome. How may I assist you?" the entity said as it stood upright from its bowing posture. He did a once-over of the boy's appearance. He had brown eyes and spiky black hair. He was of above-average height for a human and had a build suited for a runner. His outfit consisted of a black uniform with a red shirt underneath. Just what are you? What is this place?" The teen stuttered. He pointed his wooden bat towards his surroundings as he questioned about the place, ending the point towards the entity. After observing the teen's stance, he decided to answer his queries. He clarified that he didn't know of his identity and gave a brief introduction that he was but a clerk, attending to this place. He also explained what this place is and how it functioned from his experience. Is there anything that you want to purchase? What? A fuel. Petrol. Do you have that? He voiced it out loudly. That was a quick reply, though still confused and hesitant from his tone. The entity pulled out a device ready to type in the information about the product. That action made the teen flinch, unsure about the figure's movements. Any specifications are you looking for? Such as the type and how far of a distance do you plan on going? The entity stopped to ask before adding information about the product. Fit for a motorcycle and should have enough for a 100 kilometers. He lowered his bat downwards as he spoke of the details about the requested item. The entity sends a single nod and continues typing the newly received information, disbelief coloring the teen's expression as to how that thing complied with taking his order. However, his grip on his bat is firm, on edge just in case. The device dinged. XXXX. Items found. X18, aisle 48. Initiating GPS. Finding the best route. Loading. GPS initiated. Follow the route. XXXX. A blue line dimly shined on the floor, leading him to where the requested item was. You can stay here or follow me. It is your choice. The entity offered, its voice echoing in the vast emptiness of the market. With a mixture of apprehension and curiosity, the teen picked up the dropped handgun and chose to follow the store clerk. As they ventured deeper into the seemingly endless market, the school kid couldn't help but wonder about the true nature of this bizarre place, shrouded in uncertainty and intrigue. It's unbelievable for a place like this to exist. Judging by how nobody is here, am I the first to show up in this place? The teen questioned. No, others came before you. You are the fifth to have stepped foot in here. I'm curious. Mind telling me where you came from, and what show dash? It's Takashi, Komuro Takashi, and where I'm from. Wait, why would you ask that? The teen asked. The store clerk hummed before replying. During my stay here, I figured this place connects to different worlds. How did obtain this information? There's a machine that resembles a kiosk. Using the machine provides you with information to the worlds of those that stepped in. A gate to worlds? Takashi zoned out as that question lingered in his mind. Shaking his head, he turned to glance at the tall being. Then, is it possible to migrate? Or wait, I'm not dreaming, am I? Is this even real to begin with? The whole thing. To answer that, you may as well step out and see if it's a dream or not. The entity replied. Reaching aisle 48, the entity stopped and picked up the requested item, appraising it to check the product's content using that device of his. Confirming its contents, they went back to the cashier counter. It was a quiet walk until they reached it. Takashi was too invested in looking around the mysterious place. Placing the item on the counter, it displayed its price on the screen, 154.27 SC. Store credits. Takashi, seeing the price, got bummed out, confused on what the fuck is an SC, and he surely doesn't have that much currency on him to even convert it to that. You can either purchase it from your world's currency or trade it with any valuable items that you carry and place it on the selling side of the counter. He gestured towards the counter beside him. However, with currency, I recommend that you convert it. Selling currency as an item may lower its initial value. Takashi hesitated, knowing that he barely has any money on him, but eventually placed his hand on the handgun, even though it seemed foolish to trade it since it was a necessity for his survival. The teen sighed, realizing it was of no use to him now after wasting bullets on the store clerk. He reluctantly placed the handgun on the counter, and it vanished after a few seconds. The display screen lit up, showing the receipt of the purchase to both parties. XXXX. Purchase complete. Remaining store credit, 1,314.89. Thank you for your patronage. Please come again. XXXX. For a small gun like that, it sold for a lot of credits. The entity thought. Is there anything else you would like to buy? Sighing, Takashi replied. Sure. Why not? A gum or two for the road. He reached for a small tray near the checkout counter, which was filled with a variety of treats, picked up 2 watermelon-flavored gum packets, and placed them on the purchase side of the counter. XXXX. Purchase complete. Remaining store credit, 1,306.39. Thank you for your patronage. Please come again. XXXX. Would that be all? The entity inquired as he cocked his head to the side. Yes, I must go now. I don't know if Ray is safe or not. Takashi replied. As he was about to leave, a voice sounded from behind him. Wait, if you don't mind, can I see your world? Plus Yagami Light POV plus. He left the mysterious place and found that the surroundings were just as they were before he entered that door. He checked his watch and realized that only 10 minutes had passed since he entered. So, time differs. I've only been inside for 5 minutes. He glanced at his watch several times inside that very black door to check if there was anything off in that strange market. The scene of subtle snow around provides a calming effect to the setting as a few drops of snowflakes land on his watch. The man glances back at the door hidden in an alleyway, which was a couple of kilometers away from the recent scene of Naomi's death. Isn't that interesting? A raspy voice sounded from behind the man. Startled, he rapidly turned to view the owner of the voice. What is it, Ryuk? A glare was directed towards the thing that was called Ryuk, a somewhat humanoid build, extraordinarily slim and had light gray skin, almost bluish in color, thin lips, pointed teeth, round yellow eyes with red irises. His limbs were abnormally long and feather-like wings on his back. Chuckled. I'm curious to know what is behind that door. He used his long index finger and pointed towards the door. Was he not able to go in? The man pondered. Tell me, Ryuk, is there anything else that exists besides Shinigami? That sparked something in Ryuk. Knowing that something or someone is behind that very obsidian wooden door. Angels, perhaps. He chuckled. I'm certain that thing was not an angel in terms of appearance that I know about. Let's head back for now. He glanced around, checking if anyone was near the narrow alleyway. Confirming that no one was there, he started making his way home, taking a final look at the mysterious door. He began thinking of ways to cover it. Plus POV N plus. Ryuk watched the young man's figure walk away. He turned to face the door once more. He reached for the doorknob, only to have his long hand pass through it once again. Chapter 3. Into the New World. Wait, if you do not mind, can I see your world? The voice echoed as the tall creature faced Takashi, asking him in a calm tone. Takashi came to a sudden halt, his eyes avoiding direct contact with the mysterious being. He stood frozen, his mind racing with a flurry of questions. Plus Takashi POV plus. See my world? Can I allow him to? Will he be a threat? Will he cause an even more havoc than what it already is? What will Ray think? A torrent of concerns and possibilities swirled in his mind as he contemplated whether to grant this unusual request. Facing the owner of the voice, Takashi questioned, What are your intentions? His brows furrowed as he glared at the featureless face of the tall creature. I have no ill intentions. Shook its head. I have been trapped here for some time, and I wish to see what's beyond that door. The figure pointed its long finger at the door behind Takashi. Takashi contemplated the situation. It's a risky decision. I can't tell if it is being genuine or not, but still, the world is already fucked up as it is. Knowing about the situation worldwide made me think about whether humanity will survive or slowly decay. After a thorough contemplation of his odds, he mentally sighed as he came to a conclusion. I'm sure I'll have a better next life than my current one. The teen sighed and kept his eyes on the tall figure. Fuck it, I don't really care that much. I'll take the 50-50 chance. At least dying might get me a new life somewhere else. He had his hand on his forehead to ease the headache that he had. Making his decision, Takashi moved toward the exit. A sense of unease began to creep over him. He couldn't help but contemplate the nature of his decision, wondering if it was a grave mistake. Thoughts swirled in his mind, and he couldn't shake the feeling of impending doom. Stepping through the doors, a familiar feeling washed over me. A total blackout. It was the same feeling when I first entered the convenience store. Darkness all around me. Looking ahead, I spot a door, and beyond that, it displayed the gas station. I spot Ray alone in her thoughts. No one seems to be around. The longer I stayed, the more I thought of how odd this whole thing was. At first, I thought that time had frozen due to how still the image is, and there were no movements at all. Focused on his observation, he notices the slow movement of her eyelids declining downwards. Could it be? Does time flow slower there? With those thoughts swirling in his head, he continued to walk forward, approaching the exit and stepping onto the solid pavement beyond. Plus POV N plus. Tap, tap, tap. Ray turned her head upon hearing the sound of footsteps, only to see that it was Takashi. She furrowed her brows at him, clearly frustrated. For God's sake, Takashi, did you even check? Ray scolded him, crossing her arms as she waited for a response. Huh? Bewildered by how correct he was with his recent analysis. What do you mean, huh? Were you too scared to even go inside? Ray mocked, her anger still evident on her face. No, wait, the can. I forgot the fuel can. Takashi panicked, realizing his oversight. How could he forget about it? The sole objective of his trip was to get gas. The fuck are you on, Abdash? Ray retorts but was abruptly cut off. A gasp resounded from her. Her eyes widened, and her heart plummeted at the unbelievable sight unfolding behind her childhood friend. The door to the convenience store had a long, claw-like hand with gnarled fingers gripping one side of the door frame, while its other hand mirrored the grotesque image. The creature was slowly but steadily squeezing its tall form through the door frame, and with each passing moment, more of its monstrous physique was revealed. As the monstrous entity continued to emerge, Ray's terror grew exponentially. She had reached her breaking point. Her body fell on the ground, drenched in sweat. Her body trembled at the sight, later followed by a piercing scream. Kai-ah, an ear-tearing tone, so high-pitched that it felt like a physical assault on the eardrums. The noise reverberated through the air. Ray! Takashi sprinted near her on his way to calm her down. Still screaming, though less audible than when it first started, Ray cowered in fear. She felt Takashi's firm grip on her face, directing her gaze towards him as he reassured her, "It's not here to harm us." Though his words were laced with doubt, her scream transformed into heavy breaths, her heart still pounding from the unreal scene she had just witnessed. Takashi reassured her, guiding her head onto his shoulder and shielding her eyes from the terrifying sight. He gently rubbed her back in an attempt to calm her down, though uncertainty lingered in his mind. He glanced back at the creature, which stood still in a hunched posture, its true intentions unknown. The creature turned back to the door, reaching its long arm inside and then pulling it out, holding something in its hand. This sudden action made the teenage boy flinch, his muscles tense as he contemplated whether to flee or stay. You forgot your item. Chapter 4. Fragment. The market. The entity contemplated its situation, standing before the double doors that had opened, revealing a pitch-black void beyond. It was acutely aware of the fact that Takashi had already entered this mysterious space. The entity noticed that Takashi had forgotten about his purchase, a lonely item left behind at the counter beside it. Without hesitation, the entity picked up the forgotten item, understanding the importance of returning it to its owner. Now, faced with the open doors and the enigmatic darkness beyond, it wondered whether the doors were waiting for it to step through. With Takashi's forgotten purchase in hand, the entity made the decision to duck its head under the doorframe and step forward. It was a momentous choice, leaving behind the confines of its longtime residence after what felt like an eternity. As it ventured deeper into the darkness beyond the double doors, it found itself in a state of near blindness. The absence of light made it difficult to perceive anything in the surroundings. The entity's mind was far from idle. It contemplated the mysteries surrounding its existence and this peculiar realm it found itself in. The questions that had accumulated over days of attending to visitors and completing mundane tasks continued to plague its thoughts. It had no knowledge of who had assigned these duties or the purpose behind its existence. As it navigated through the darkness, the entity couldn't shake the feeling that it was being watched, adding another layer of intrigue and uncertainty to its already enigmatic journey. Emerging from the darkness into what appeared to be another open door, the entity gazed at the scene before it. It could discern the slow-moving images that unfolded, like frames from a surreal film. There was Takashi, standing with his back turned, and with him was a girl, as mentioned by Takashi earlier. With careful movements, the entity extended its hands, gripping the sides of the door frame, and mimicked the action with its opposite hand. Lowering its head once more, it pushed through the door, fully emerging on the other side. However, its arrival was far from inconspicuous. The entity's emergence triggered a piercing scream that echoed through the surroundings. Kai-ah. Its sudden appearance was undoubtedly unsettling, especially given its form. The entity's thoughts turned to the object it had unintentionally dropped. Realizing that the can of fuel was left behind, it extended its long arm back into the darkness of the door, groping around to locate the missing item. The situation had become a bit more complicated than it initially anticipated, but it was determined to retrieve the can before moving forward. Found it! The entity managed to locate the can of fuel in the darkness. You forgot your item. The entity held the can at head length to show it to its recent buyer. That made Takashi sweat drop, as it turns out that he was wrong and the creature was genuine about what it said, right? Still in doubt, though slightly. As for Rei, her fear still lingered. She cautiously raised her head from Takashi's shoulder to take a peek at the creature. It doesn't seem to be a threat from the looks of it. With his help, she stood up, albeit still feeling shaken by the surreal experience. Afterward, Takashi approached the tall creature and received the can. Rei watched the exchange with a mixture of curiosity and caution. With the can in hand, Takashi made his way back to where the motorcycle was parked. Popping the lid open, he made sure to carefully pour the gasoline into the motorcycle's tank, ensuring not to spill any. On the other hand, Rei remained fixated on the enigmatic entity, her curiosity driving her to observe its every move. She couldn't help but wonder about its origins and intentions. As the store clerk explored its new surroundings, it stumbled upon something hidden behind an ATM. Curious, it moved closer to investigate, unaware of the attention it was receiving from Takashi and Rei. Clang! The sudden sound of metal hitting the concrete ground disrupted the atmosphere around. All three of them snapped their heads in the direction of the noise, their senses on high alert. Fuck! Shit! A man emerged from his hiding spot, clearly terrified. He sprinted away in panic, glancing over his shoulder to ensure that the peculiar creature wasn't pursuing him. In his frantic attempt to escape, the man inadvertently collided with an obstacle, causing him to crash onto the pavement. As he struggled to regain his footing, his eyes widened in terror as he found himself face to face with a gruesome and decayed head, its mouth agape in a grotesque display. No. Despair filled the man as he realized the grim fate that awaited him. The decaying corpse lunged forward and sank its teeth into the unfortunate victim's exposed neck, causing him to writhe in excruciating pain. Feeble attempts to escape the relentless grip of the undead proved futile as the horrifying scene unfolded before Takashi, Rei, and the tall attendant. Agag! Help! The man's agonized screams pierced the air as he desperately cried out for help. He exerted every ounce of remaining strength in a futile attempt to force the monstrous corpse away from him. But with each struggle, he only felt more pain. The decaying creature clung to his flesh, its relentless grip driving the man to the brink of despair. The horrifying scene didn't go unnoticed, as the man's frantic cries for assistance drew the attention of other nearby undead. They began to converge upon the unfortunate victim, a grotesque horde of flesh-hungry monstrosities descending upon him. Please, Ag! The man's desperate pleas for help continued to fill the night. His agonizing screams and cries echoed as he endured the unimaginable pain of being torn apart by the relentless undead. His tear-filled eyes scanned the vicinity, desperately searching for any savior who might come to his aid. But the horror of his situation only intensified as another chunk of his flesh was ruthlessly bitten. The ones present were watching as the horror unfolded right in front of them with horrified expressions, except for the entity whose face seemed featureless, no signs of twitching towards the scene at front. With a sense of urgency, Takashi made a swift decision to take action. He discarded the fuel can and started up the motorcycle, revving the engine to life. We have to get the hell out of here. Hop in. Takashi wasted no time, urging his childhood friend, with Rei seated behind him and securely held onto him. Thanks for the gas. Takashi gave his farewell to the tall figure before he drove away, with some of the undead sluggishly following behind them. Meanwhile, the entity heard a sound emanating in his pocket. He retrieved the device, prepared to examine the alert it had received. Upon reaching the device's main homepage, it observed 3 distinct applications in the center, each marked with a unique graphical icon. XXXX. Current applications. Appraise. Track. Task. Exclamation point. __task__. Daily tasks. Cleaning. Complete. Objectives. Clean up at aisle number 55, 47 and 45. Rewards. Black small square 25 SC. Fill an empty part of the shelf. Complete. Objectives. There is a shopping cart with the products in the storage room. Head to aisle 34 and stack up the items in the empty part of the shelf. Rewards. Black small square 25 SC. Organize aisle. Complete. Objectives. Aisle 67 is a mess. It needs a makeover. Rewards. Black small square 25 SC. Dummy practice. Incomplete. Objectives. Head to the Tier 1 dummy room. Practice your attacks on the target for 10 minutes. Rewards. Black small square 25 SC. Missions. Exclamation point. __ mission. S. __. Corpse party. Objectives. Kill 100 zombies under the set time limit. Difficulty. Normal. Rewards. Black small square 500 SC. Black small square new device functions. Black small square 10 STR. Black small square 10 STA. Black small square a new title. Bonus Tier 1. Objectives. Kill an extra 50. Rewards. Black small square bronze tier ability / item. Bonus Tier 2. Objectives. Kill an extra 100. Rewards. Black small square silver tier ability / item. Bonus Tier 3. Objectives. Kill an extra 200. Rewards. Black small square gold tier ability / item. Do you wish to accept the mission? Yes, no. XXXX. A mission? This is the first time I ever received one. Does that mean only in a different world would I receive such tasks? Facing this unique opportunity, the entity pondered whether to accept the mission. After a brief moment, it chose to face the challenge and selected yes, initiating a countdown on the main screen. XXXX. 9:59. 9:58. XXXX. A raspy growl sounded in front of the store clerk. The worker looks ahead only to see one of the undead extending its arms to grab onto his figure. He chose to back away a few steps to create a distance between them as the corpse sluggishly approached. He turned off the device and placed it in his pocket. Willing to test its strength, the entity chose to swiftly pierce its skull with its sharp index. The sound of the skull being pierced with a crack didn't unnoticed as it drew those nearby and were sluggishly walking towards it. Seeing the outcome, the entity pulled its finger out and left the lifeless body fall with a loud thump. The worker studied its finger now blood-ridden state as the fluid dripped down from its tip. Another nasty growl, though this time it's not only one but a horde. The tall figure knows what it has to do after its quick examination. It readied its hands and pierced its fingers at the approaching duo. Similar results as both fell after pulling it out of their skull. Now aware that he has a time limit, he didn't stop. The entity continued its fierce assault on the approaching horde of zombies. Its claws moved with precision and speed, slicing through the undead with ruthless efficiency. The sound of slashing and groans commenced as the number of death tolls began to rack up. 5, 8, 16. Its claws dismantled the zombies one by one. Limbs and heads were severed, bodies torn apart, and the ground became littered with the remains of the undead. 22, 45, 67. The entity's movements were fluid. It knew that time was of the essence, and it had to eliminate as many zombies as possible before the countdown reached its end. The numbers continued to rise as the entity pressed forward, undeterred by the relentless onslaught. It was a force to be reckoned with, a dark and powerful entity fighting for the goal set in this nightmarish world. The abrupt halt of a groan as its skull was pierced through. A swift and precise finger strike pierced the zombie's forehead, ending the bloodbath as that was the last of them. The moonlight cast an eerie glow over the gruesome scene as the entity pulled its sharp, pointy finger out and decided to walk back to the gas station. Splat. Stepping over an eye, it ignores it as the remains stuck to its shoe. Its steps left a trail of red prints on the pavement, evidence of the carnage it had wrought. The entity paid no heed to the gruesome sights and sounds around it. Arriving at a nearby bench outside the convenience store, the entity took a seat, its attire now thoroughly drenched and stained with bits of gore. Its colorful fabric clothing was now a gruesome mix of colors. The device dinged in its pockets. The entity's attention was drawn to the sound originating from the device. It paused momentarily after pulling it out, contemplating the significance of this digital message. Before looking over the device, I glanced towards the mass slaughter on the streets. How come I was calm in doing that? I didn't spaz out on the awful gore that I have witnessed. My psyche is perfectly intact. The entity proceeded to check on the device, curious about what information or task it might hold. XXXX. __ mission. S. __. Corpse party. Complete. Objectives. Kill 100 zombies under the time limit set. Difficulty. Normal. Results. 178 out of 100. Rewards. Black small square 500 SC. Black small square new device functions. Black small square, 10, STR. Plus 10 completed first mission bonus. Black small square, 10, STA. Plus 10 completed first mission bonus. Black small square, a new title. Bonus tier 1. Objectives. Kill an extra 50. Rewards. Black small square, bronze tier ability/item. Bonus tier 2. Objectives. Kill an extra 100. Rewards. Black small square, silver tier ability/item. Bonus tier 3. Objectives. Kill an extra 200. Rewards. Black small square, gold tier ability/item. Would you like to cash out the rewards now? Yes, no. XXXX. The entity tapped on the button to claim its rewards. As it did, an array of rewards was displayed in the form of cards, each with its own title, description, and attributes. XXXX. Received. Rewards. Black small square, 500 SC added to your virtual wallet. Black small square. A new function has been added. Extraction. Requires a restart. Description. Able to extract without limits, collect things from the outside world, and store them in your inventory. Black small square, 20 points, STR, have been applied. Black small square, 20 points, STA, have been applied. Black small square, a new title has been given. Zombie Killer. Description. Deal 50% more damage and critical damage to a zombie. Trigger an aura that would hide you from them. Black small square, bonus tier 1. Swiping Frenzy. Complete. Description. Your claws are now coated with a magical substance if one's blood were to come in contact with it. It would randomly choose an attribute from that individual, and the selected attribute would have its stat points slightly reduced and given to the host. The effect is temporary. Can't be repeated on the same individual until the effect duration has ended. Can stack. Duration. 30 minutes for each that is stolen. XXXX. As the figure examined its newfound abilities, it couldn't help but wonder about the nature of its existence and the source of these strange powers. The questions continued to pile up, leaving it with a growing sense of curiosity and uncertainty. The device dinged again with a new notification. XXXX. Warning. You have met the conditions. Initiating reset. XXXX. The entity pondered the conditions and rewards, trying to make sense of how it had met these criteria. Its memory remained fragmented, leaving it with more questions than answers, as the screen loaded new features and revealed additional conditions. XXXX. Update complete. Fragment Tier 1 has been met. Displaying conditions. Adding new features. Conditions. Reach a total of 100 SC in sales. Complete. Rewards. Unlocked virtual store and upgrades section. Have at least 2 buying customers. Complete. Rewards. Unlocked worker application. Visit One World. Complete. Rewards. Unlocked portable doors. Complete your first world mission. Complete. Rewards. Unlocked attribute application. Conditions have been met. Unlocking fragment. XXXX. Thud. The device fell to the ground as it slipped from the worker's hand. It remained seated, unmoving, and its breathing was stable. The entity vigorously inhales after what seemed an eternity for itself. The store clerk shook in its place as it inhaled, sweat forming on his head. It raised both claw-like hands, head level, inspecting them after a few seconds. The tall attendant had one of its hands wiping the blood off of the name tag, taking a closer look. Kazuhiro. The device tinged. XXXX. Identity fragment. Complete. XXXX. Chapter 5. Applications. Kazuhiro. He echoed the name that was written. His voice fills the still atmosphere as he then releases the name tag. He reclines on the bench, lost in thought, grappling with the newfound knowledge of his identity. The weight of this revelation bears down on him, leaving him confused. I now know who and what I used to be, however. He raised both of his coal-colored hands, inspecting them. Kazuhiro's thoughts race as he tries to piece together his past and understand his current state. I have no memory of what I have already been exposed to. It all came in text similar to that of a biography of what that person has done in their previous life. From the moment that they were born to the day that they have died. First name, Kazuhiro. Surname, Fuji. A human male was born on 1981 June 21st in Hamamatsu, Japan. Died at the age of 42. He was below average in terms of academics and had a job as a construction site worker. He has a loving family, a wife and 3 kids. I can go on about what my mind has just consumed. Is that really who I used to be? Kazuhiro wonders, his thoughts swirling in confusion. The emotions, the experiences, the connections, they all seem foreign to me. The disparity between the person's past life and his current existence leaves Kazuhiro with even more questions. He grapples with the enigma of his identity and the realization that he may not be the person he once was. Looking over at the eaten corpse of the previously frightened man, there seems to be a slight form of movement. He thoughtfully continues as he gazes in the direction of the dead man. Though I'm most likely sure that the described individual could be me, for me to receive that much load of information about that single individual and to have a name tag with the name of that human written on it. Could it be that I took over his body? That's unlikely, as his described appearance differs from myself. He picks up the device from the ground and examines its contents. XXXX. Identity fragment. Complete. You have been promoted from a worker to a supervisor due to completing a fragment. Daily tasks will change according to your rank. Head to the fragment panel. It has been unlocked and can be located at the bottom left of your homepage screen. XXXX. Curious about the new features and responsibilities that come with his promotion, he instead decides to examine the new applications on the device. XXXX. Homepage __. Main applications. Appraise. Attribute. Door. Task. Track. Shop. Worker. XXXX. Kazuhiro takes a moment to read through the guide provided on the device, gaining a better understanding of the new applications and their properties. I started with the attribute page. I can now fully view these so-called stats and implement these points instead of earning them through either training or from my recent missions. Kazuhiro delves into the attribute page, gaining access to a comprehensive view of his stats. XXXX. Attribute __. Attribute points, AP0. Strength STR, 52, plus 20, X. Crush impact, or the weight/force implemented into your attacks. Stamina STA, 42, plus 20, X. Energy, be it physical or magical. Constitution, Con, 30, X. Durability, resistances, vitality, health. Agility, AGI, 67, X. Speed, it's not about running fast, but overall speed on how fast you can move your limbs. Dexterity, DEX, 23, X. Flexibility, good for pickpocketing and any other nimble acts. Intelligence, INT, 51, X. Doesn't mean you are Einstein, but provides clarity to the mind, better memorization, etc. Special attributes. Charisma, SHA locked. Awareness, AWR. Locked. Stealth, STH. Locked. Spirit, SPR. Locked. Accuracy, ACC. Locked. And average adult human stats. 2030, above average. 3150, genetically enhanced. 5180, Agent 47 type of enhancement. Your starting attributes have been set to match your current physical form. From now on, you can gain attribute points from completing missions. The harder the difficulty, the more points you receive. With AP, you can now implement points to your desired attribute. Special attributes can be unlocked in certain situations. Once unlocked, the host can use stat points to increase it. XXXX. The realization that he can potentially earn points through training and other activities opens up opportunities for him to further enhance his attributes and skills. This knowledge will undoubtedly prove valuable as he continues to navigate this strange and perilous realm. Done with exploring his attributes, he heads over to the shop application. Kazuhiro realizes the convenience it offers. The app provides the ability to purchase items outside of the market, as well as the option to upgrade various facilities within the market. This allows Kazuhiro to be better equipped as well as to adapt and make strategic decisions to survive in multiple environments. XXXX. __upgrade__. Current facilities. Training room Tier 1. Indestructible haystack dummies. Storage room Tier 1. Provides minimal daily tasks with minimal rewards. Receive 4 tasks daily. 25 SC each. You can purchase more facilities through the virtual shop. XXXX. I'll browse through the purchasable facilities at a later time. Kazuhiro looks over and acknowledges the approaching corpse but decides to disregard it for now. focusing on exploring the various applications and functionalities available to him. Using the worker application, I could hire others to join as employees at the market. He thought. They'd receive similar perks such as appropriate clothing and a device similar to the one in hand. These workers will be allowed to use the facilities. However, they wouldn't have the ability to upgrade or modify anything within the marketplace. Last of the new utilities is the door. This application works for both parties. The workers can now open doors to wherever they want using their devices. However, they have to be present inside the marketplace to travel. They can only access the dimensions of those who have entered the place. Newcomers will have their world undergo a process of unlocking. Once unlocked, it can be an option to visit. If an employee were to be outside of the market, they can materialize the gate anywhere they wish, and it will lead them back to the marketplace. Now, onto the guests that have entered the place. They are now able to return. It's no longer a one-time entry. They simply have to envision the market in order to visit the place. Eventually a gate will materialize nearby. That should be it. Going over the new icons below, I can see that there are skills and a new feature to the device extraction. Clicking on the latter, I'm met with another guide describing the process of how this works. From what I have gathered, I can now dismantle and store objects from other worlds, which I can later place in the inventory. The item can be sold or used however I please. XXXX__skills__. Passive skills. Black small square, swiping frenzy, tier 1. Description. Your claws are now coated with a magical substance. If one's blood were to come in contact with it, it would randomly choose an attribute from that individual, and the chosen attribute would have its stat points slightly reduced and given to the host. The effect is temporary. Can't be repeated on the same individual until the effect duration has ended. Can stack. Duration, 30 minutes for each that is stolen. Activation skill, XXXX. Not much, only one for now, though it wouldn't be useful in a one-on-one confrontation, he thought as he read the passive skill. Now, it's time to visit the requested panel. As Kazuhiro clicks on the requested panel, his vision goes dark. His vision returns as Kazuhiro finds himself in a serene and otherworldly space, surrounded by stars and planets in the distance. Subtle sounds filled the air, creating a tranquil atmosphere as he stood on a transparent surface. Particles danced around him, eventually forming for crystal-like shapes. One of these shapes emitted a deep royal blue glow while the others remained dimmed. As he took in this surreal environment, a holographic screen suddenly materialized before him, displaying the same crystal-like shapes that had solidified earlier. The term identity fragment etched its significance into his consciousness. Upon reading its description, he couldn't deny the truth. It was him. His very essence was encapsulated within this crystalline form. This revelation stirred up a question. With one fragment representing his identity, what secrets did the other three hold? Turning his attention to the second fragment, the sole one currently accessible, he noted that the rest remained veiled, their mysteries locked away. This particular fragment lacked a name but featured 5 panels, only one of which was visible. It alluded to a task, a challenge that must be undertaken to unlock the concealed fragments and unearth their enigmatic contents. XXXX. Fragment Tier 2. Conditions. Sell 200 items in the market. Items sold. 4/200. XXXX. With a cursory glance at the information, he closed the screen by tapping on the Leave Space option. A familiar sensation enveloped him as his vision faded to black. Upon regaining awareness, he found himself seated in the exact spot as before. I wonder what would happen if I were to unlock all of the fragments. One of them revealed to me my identity, and if I were to unlock all of them, would I know more about myself and how I got here? Amidst his contemplation of recent events, a raspy growl disrupted Kazuhiro's thoughts. He shifted his attention to the source of the sound, which turned out to be the man who had been devoured by the undead earlier. Now transformed into one of them, he lurched in Kazuhiro's direction. Taking action, Kazuhiro rose from his seated position. With deliberate movements, he closed the distance to the crawling man-eater. The sound of the brutal cracking of the bone reverberated, as the sole of Kazuhiro's shoe came down with force, pulverizing the creature's skull. It ceased all movement, lying motionless on the ground. A profound silence followed, broken only by the faint rustling of the cold breeze and the intermittent flickering of the gas station's lights. I should get going and explore a bit more. I need to wash myself too, the figure voices out to himself, flicking out the remains that stuck to him. He then walks into the night, wandering aimlessly around the new world.